Hey guys, this week I wanted to talk about Trump's effort to kind of coerce, maybe pressure the Fed into lowering their rates. In May, he's going to get to choose the new Fed chairman, and I'm going to talk about that guy on another day. But first of all, let's talk about the Fed's mission as defined by Congress is to, one, manage jobs and keep unemployment from getting too high. And the second one is to manage inflation and keep it at its target rate of 2%. It's been running up around 3%. So lately, let's talk about inflation first. We had CPI last week. It came out really favorable, getting closer to 2%. PCE comes out this Friday. There are some reports that they actually think it might tick up. We shall see. Out of both those reports, there's an overall read and then there's a core read. They take out food and energy for the core read, which is less volatile, and the Fed loves to follow core PCE. Okay, so on one hand, we've got inflation that's cooling, and there's a good argument out there that inflation is being overcounted based on the way they collect their data. There's some numbers that are always kind of trailing, and that's why inflation is maybe slightly higher than it really is. Okay? We also have jobs. Let me talk about this. If the Fed lowers rates, it runs the risk of pushing up inflation because it makes money cheaper. People in businesses tend to borrow more, spend more when things are cheap. The pain of borrowing or spending is not as bad when rates are low. Okay, jobs now. Last week we had ADP, which is a private payroll company, said there were only 22,000 jobs created in January. And then we had the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, the government entity, came out on Friday with 130,000 jobs created. So this is the deal, is BLS has been notoriously wrong. So last year, anytime the BLS comes out, they have 2 to 3 revisions the months following as they sift through the data. So last year, with all the revisions, we created something like an average of 15 to 20,000 jobs a month, all of 2025. It's one of the worst employment years on record, okay? But the markets are still following BLS. So we have the strong BLS. Rates ticked up a little bit. They actually settled down because the markets actually don't really believe the BLS anymore. But what's important is the Fed is wanting currently to be patient with lowering rates. They feel they're going to use the BLS info as, hey, job market is stronger than we think. We're not doing a thing. So when Trump is pressuring the Fed to lower, what does this mean? Well, it plays into a lot of things. One, it potentially makes the payments on our national debt cheaper, which is a good thing. It also means in those times that typically our governments tend to borrow more because, again, the pain of borrowing is less. But long term, what happens is our country is seen as the most financially stable country in the world. We are considered a safe haven for investment. So anytime that there is global turmoil, a war, a pandemic, a nuclear bomb, terrorist attack, things like that, money flows into our country, our treasuries and mortgage bonds and things like that, because people know they're going to get paid. Well, if our monetary system is more leveraged and controlled by a political party on the whim, the rest of the world loses faith in our integrity, in the integrity of our financial system, possibly. And if that starts to happen, the trust erodes and long-term debt will become more expensive, because as soon as The people think that we're not going to pay our bills or it's questionable, rates have to go up to entice them to keep investing. So it can actually have an opposite effect. This happened during COVID when the Fed was raising rates and then they paused, and then mortgage rates continued to go up because the overall markets felt like the Fed should still be raising rates. So there's some big implications if Trump gets to really pressure the Fed. It doesn't really look like that's actually going to happen. There's a lot of people that are really resistant to it, bankers, etc. So just a little intel on the street on how all that works. We'll see PCE on Friday. Hope you have a great week. Thanks.